let's take a look at your first mock draft, and you still have Fernando Mendoza being the top pick in the draft, and then you do have the Giants going and grabbing Carnell Tate because Robert Sala's first pick as a Tennessee Titans HC is for the defense. You got the Jets choosing Arvell Reese out of the Ohio State, who is just as dynamite as they come, and Maui Goa going to Arizona at 3. But let's linger at Mendoza first. And what's your evaluation of this kid, the Heisman Trophy winner and undefeated national champion out of Indiana, Mel?
He did everything that you needed to do to solidify that spot. I had Dante Moore slightly ahead after that Penn State game. Remember that great game Dante Moore had up at Happy Valley? So once I had him there, I had to wait for Dante to struggle. Well, even when he had some struggles, he had that great drive late. He had to deal with a lot of bad weather and injuries on the offensive side of the ball for Oregon. So I couldn't take him off that spot, but I had him neck and neck. Then the end of the year, you saw what Fernando Mendoza was able to do, finishing it off. So he becomes solidly the number 1 quarterback. Dante made a great decision. Not enough starts at 20. Go back to Oregon. Be right there with Arch as the number 1 pick next year. So now it's all about Fernando Mendoza and Clint Kubiak and the Raiders get lucky, fortunate to have that first pick. And to have a quarterback that's worthy of being that high a pick and being a franchise quarterback like we're expecting Fernando Mendoza to be. He cut down on his sacks dramatically from Cal to this year at Indiana. He got the ball to all those receivers accurately, clutch situations. The way the decision-making, Rich, late in a play that he made on a consistent basis was remarkable. And not turning it over, being able to beat a defense with his legs, as he did in the championship game. When he did a run, he could. The great leadership. He was going to go to Yale. He's incredibly intelligent, so passionate, so energetic. For the Raiders, Raider Nation, be happy. In the AFC, particularly in that division, Rich, with Patrick Mahomes, and you think about Justin Herbert and Bo Nix, to get a guy like this for Clint Kubiak, you struck gold here. This kid is an outstanding prospect.
Yeah, the phrase that I always picked up from my guy Mayock over the years, clean off the field as well. Yeah. You take a look, again, I'm not an all-22 guy, but his out routes were pinpoint. His 50-50 balls were perfection. You mentioned about what Moore did against Penn State, the throw that Mendoza made against Penn State, and that final drive, spectacular. Him getting blown up by Ohio State on the first play of the Big Ten championship game. What Miami was delivering with shoulders and heads and elbows in his direction, and what he was able to do on that 4th down with his legs. I mean, every box checked. But Mel, where would he rank if he was in last year's draft class, or even 2 years ago where there were 3 that went at the top, and Drake May being the one who was in the Super Bowl this year? Where would he rank?
Yeah, he reminds me a lot, Rich. When you look back, you think about Peyton Manning, how he studied, right? You can't get him out of film. You can't get him out of the evaluation of the opponent. He always says, I love trying to crack the code. That was a Fernando Mendoza comment back during the season. Crack the code. And he did it. And he did it regularly. You think about where we are right now in terms of ranking. Will it be historically great? No, because you talk about, everybody says he doesn't have elite traits. Well, you don't need elite traits to be the greatest of all time. Tom Brady didn't have anywhere near elite traits. And he had 7 Super Bowl rings, went to 10, right? Nobody's even close to that number. So for me, Fernando Mendoza, as you say, checks every box. There's no question about that. In any draft, I don't care what draft you're talking about, he would be right there. Now, would a guy with maybe more talent, like Caleb Williams and the Jaden Daniels and guys like that, would they have been ahead? Who knows? But to say that this guy's not worthy of being the number 1 pick is ridiculous. It's nonsense. To say he's not the best player in this draft, I don't know who's better. Because you're getting a guaranteed star at the quarterback position, which is the most important position in any sport in the world. So I don't know. And the Raiders, to have that pick, be so fortunate. Think about how lucky they are. Sometimes you can have the number 1 pick. There's no quarterback. You have to force it, or you have to take somebody else, or wish you were in another year. They got lucky, as the Colts did with Peyton Manning. Remember, they ended up with Andrew Luck another year when they were fortunate to get Andrew Luck. So at the end of the day, having the number 1 pick, desperately needing a quarterback, Raider Nation, be happy, because now the Jets are on the clock.
Well, and then lastly on this subject matter, Mel Kiper Jr., where do you stand on the question that the Raiders aren't ready for somebody like Fernando Mendoza, and thus his ability to succeed might be stunted by the lack of protection that consumed Geno Smith last year? Or, yes, there are weapons with Bowers and with Genty, but the Raiders arguably are not ready to draft somebody like Fernando Mendoza. Where do you stand on that subject matter that it will no doubt be talk of the combine? next week?
Well, teams picking first usually aren't ready to win right away anyway. That's why they're picking first. And to go back to when Peyton, go back to Joe Burrow going to the Bengals. Remember, oh, you don't want to go to the Bengals? Well, you know, nobody check. Kenny Anderson, Boomer Esiason, Carson Palmer, Andy Dalton all had success with the Bengals. And Burrow's been to a Super Bowl already, right? Almost won one. You think about where we were with Trevor Lawrence going to Jacksonville. Now Trevor is getting up there with the best in the business. So for me, now you just got to build around him, Rich. That's up to Spytak, and that's up to now Clint Kubiak and those guys to get the job done with Tom Brady's influence there. Build that offensive line up. You got Brock Bowers, who's an enormous talent. You saw what he could do last year. You got Ginty, who you drafted last year. You got pieces around the quarterback. Hey, draft these guys, build up, fortify the talent around Fernando Mendoza, and you got, in my opinion, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He brings a lot of what Peyton Manning brought to the NFL, coming from Tennessee. Like I say, when you have the mindset, the smarts, the instincts, and the intelligence, and the arm, and the mobility, even though he's not going to run like Lamar and Josh Allen, he can still beat you with his legs. When you need a first down on 3rd and 8 to frustrate a defense, he can do that. He's pinpoint accurate. And like I said, when I see latent plays, guys panic, they force a throw, they're inaccurate, they take a sack, they don't throw it away. Everything latent plays at critical moments, Rich, he did perfectly. And he had some games where he had to come through late against some pretty good defense. That Phil Parker defense at Iowa was pretty doggone good, right? Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Penn State game. So for me, I don't know what else Fernando Mendoza could have done this year. And like I say, taking that sack total was like 41 at Cal, down to 18 during the regular season in Indiana. Did what he needed to do. You tell him what he needs to improve on, and he will work to make sure that mistake or that issue is not happening anymore.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.